in the silence between heartbeats, he returns. The one-eyed king, the god of endings, and of men who refuse to die. The cycle of death and rebirth is about to start again. I know you feel it. That sickly sweet thread in your gut pulling at your soul. It's death. Death on the horizon. And it breaks your peace. The secular age of men has failed, and the gods return. An engineered collapse is on the horizon, engineered by enemies. For the first time in generations, our people face bondage and enslavement. They face annihilation. But this is how the Age of Heroes begins, not in light, but in the heart of darkness. Be grateful for such times. They were given to test us, to call our fire forth. It is our purpose to illuminate the shadows, to shine as our fathers once did before us. This is your hero's journey. It's not some other man, it's not some other time. It is you, and the time is now. It isn't enough to name what's broken. Complaining about the rot only feeds it. A man must act. You feel that pull already, the ache that says something has gone wrong. You see the decay, the mockery of strength, the empty eyes of a generation raised to obey. You're not imagining it. What you sense is the deliberate unmaking of men. For centuries, the world has been reshaped to divide brothers, to dull courage, to turn fathers into ghosts. Each blow landed quietly, each lie wrapped in comfort, until we forgot who we were meant to be. That is the true attack, not on our bodies alone, but on the bonds that once held us together. Belonging, duty, and blood. Yet, the thread still exists, frayed, thin, but unbroken. Our task is to find it and weave it again. This work is not revenge, it is a rescue of truth, of spirit, of the sons who never knew their fathers. The tapestry of our people is torn, but it can be mended. We haven't come here to condemn the lost. We are here to bring them home. But do not mistake the moment. They have gained much ground, but they have not yet won. There is still time. What you hear here is only the first part of our work. The rest can't be done through a screen. Real change happens face to face, shoulder to shoulder. Some things shouldn't be broadcast because if everyone, friend and enemy alike, knows your plans, they'll move to stop you. This isn't about secrecy or selling anything, it's about protecting what matters. These public messages exist to guide and prepare. The real test comes when you carry them into the world. So listen carefully. fall back in love with your own. That is the first step, and it matters. Stop trying to be right. Free men rarely agree, but they must move as one. Find those who build instead of argue. Stand beside them. The strength of the tribe is not in its words, but in its will and who it produces. And know this, nothing digital is safe. Treat every screen as an open ear. We will not hide behind code. Publicly, we will speak through culture, through myth, through the living bond of fathers and brothers, through what is ours. What is done here is only the first step. These words exist to build the man within. This is where we meet, where we forge the bond that holds when the world gives way. Because without strong men, there is no brotherhood, and without brotherhood, nothing remains worth defending. When you are ready, the deeper work begins. Rebuild the inner citadel, discipline, courage, and mastery. Then let that strength reach outward. A man who cannot rule himself will never order the chaos of the age. The war begins within, but it will not end there. What comes next will challenge everything you were taught, and not all will make it across. You are only now waking up to the scope and scale of betrayal. The treason is total. Only 3 paths remain. First, the path of kings. Change now while you still command yourself. Second, you can wait for collapse and learn through pain. And third, you can do nothing and be buried with the modern world. Perhaps this is Ragnarok, the turning of an age. Yet every ending births a beginning, and the future belongs to those who act, those who build, train, remember, and lead. It all begins with a choice, my son. Decide, not tomorrow, now. When I speak of rebuilding the warband, the manor bond, I'm not talking about a club or a slogan. I mean a living community that governs itself through discipline, service, and merit. The world we were handed is hollow, its institutions built for management, not meaning. So, we begin the slow work of culture, creating art, households, schools, and brotherhoods that live by our own standards of honor and responsibility. This isn't a revolution of flags or ballots. It's the birth of a parallel way of life, a civilization within the ruins. Each generation that carries these principles forward will give the next a clearer structure, until what we build quietly outgrows the systems that once claimed to rule us. We are beginning the work of building a new kingdom, a living order founded on strength, wisdom, and the will to rule oneself. Its first guardians will be the Einherjar, men proven by ordeal, loyal to one another and faithful to the task of restoration. And above them stands a sovereign king, not by decree or crown, but by merit, mastery, and the authority that flows from earned respect. This kingdom is not imagined, it is being built. In every workshop, household, and brotherhood that rejects decay and reclaims the sacred bond between power and responsibility. It is not a copy of the past, but its continuation, the return of the natural order beneath which Europa once thrived, now rising again through those who remember. In this age of surveillance and slander, prudence is not cowardice. A man need not expose his every belief to those who would twist it for sport. There is wisdom in silence and strength in anonymity when used to guard what must endure. Discretion is not deceit, it is discipline. Speak publicly only when your voice will build. Hold your tongue when the mob would only burn. In time, when you have forged mastery within yourself, the moment to speak and lead will reveal itself naturally. In a low-trust age, suspicion follows everyone. People hurl accusations of bad faith the moment a new voice appears. It has become easier to call someone a plant or a fed than to listen. That reflex comes from living in a world where institutions have broken trust with their citizens and where most contact happens through screens. History warns what happens when that distrust becomes the culture itself. In East Germany, the Stasi perfected the art of suspicion, turning neighbor against neighbor until fear replaced fraternity, and silence became a form of survival. No civilization can live long on that poison. When every man suspects the other, when every conversation becomes a risk, the nation devours itself long before the enemies arrive. Trust cannot be built through hashtags or clever replies. It comes only from real life, seeing each other face to face, sharing meals, learning families' names, having the long, difficult conversations that can't be compressed into 180 characters. Community is forged in presence, not posts. Nothing you hope to build will endure online alone. And hear me clearly. There's no version of this story where you won't have to get healthy and live in the real world with your brothers. That will be a difficult adjustment for many of you whose lives have been built on the convenience of modernity. I know, because I've lived it. I too have suffered. But that's part of the hard work of rebuilding. The truth is, this work isn't impossible. It's simply been forgotten. Community is an art, a skill our age has neglected. Modern language trains you to distrust, to assume the worst of every man beside you. That distrust is understandable, but it cannot be allowed to rule you. So know this. You will be disappointed. Someone will lie. Someone will betray. So what? That's already happening now. So you might as well do the work that matters. Build anyway. The weight of the world doesn't lift until you move beneath it. And understand, when men finally sit together and speak honestly, it's not going to sound nice. After years of being told to stay quiet, a lot of what comes out will be harsh, ugly, angry. That doesn't mean it's hateful. It means they've been carrying too much for too long. This isn't about preaching or politics. It's a release valve. But the risk is real. In a world built on outrage, one recording or betrayal can ruin a man. That's why trust has to come first. Build it face to face, with men who understand what's being said and why. Only then can the noise burn off and the real conversation begin. This is something I can teach you. How to build real trust and community again. Before you ever invite a man to the fire, you start smaller. He's coming in with years of frustration about work, faith, the world, and the way everything feels off. When he finally speaks, it might come out rough, even hostile. That's normal. It's what happened when a man hasn't had a place to speak at all. Your job isn't to shame him. It's to listen long enough to understand what he's really trying to say. Then, help him aim that energy at something real. Discipline, learning, service, mastery. So it becomes strength instead of bitterness. You'll notice that every group, in every age, tries to build a space where it feels understood. That's not something to fear. It's human nature. People who share a history and heritage or a struggle want to build together, and they have every right to do so, just as others do. The line is simple. Build what you love. Don't build it on someone else's ruin. Talk with men about things that matter. Belief, duty, philosophy, what it means to live well. You learn who they are and they learn who you are. That's how trust is built. Through shared thought before shared struggle. And when the time comes to sit together, leave the phones behind. Don't just turn them off. Leave them in the car. That little device keeps you half somewhere else even when it's dark. The mind can't be free while it's still chained to the screen. And there's no version of this story where you stay online and call it brotherhood. The fire is real, the work is real, the bond must also be real. Everyone wants to skip the race and cross the finish line. But there are no shortcuts here. We can't build anything lasting from a reactionary mindset. Surely by now you can see that they constantly provoke you to keep you in this reactionary mental state. And in this state, you're easy to control. Online community rules aren't real. They don't work. They're built on false values. But that's what most people have grown used to. Online life excuses behavior that would never be acceptable face-to-face. People speak without consequence, posture for attention, and call it connection. An act of betrayal is simply dismissed as a lost follower, and so on. Ask yourself, how many of your online friends will actually show up when you need them? The result is a moral and ethical ecosystem built around protecting poor communal habits. Habits that reward vanity, not virtue. That is why new communities can't be built on social media platforms. Platforms that are designed to keep you isolated while feeling surrounded. It's time to abandon the platforms in the same way we once abandoned our real communities for the platform. We must reverse the trade. This is what they fear most. Real people, real communities, real discussions outside of their control. These are habits that have to be broken. As I've said, expect that new men will come in angry, triggered, defensive, already hostile toward everything outside themselves. Given the world they've inherited that makes sense, give them room to breathe and grow. But we can't lead with that energy. Connection has to come first. Self-development has to begin before brotherhood can stand. You must begin this journey by looking inward and focus on mastery in all matters, large and small. because leadership must rise from excellence, not from consensus or popularity. Stop thinking in terms of democracy when you're trying to build a masculine brotherhood. The standard is merit, not applause. We are a wolf pack, not a herd. Know that. From this foundation comes the next echelon of kin and men, and from them, the Einherjar. Everyone wants to be a knight of the realm, but few want to help build the realm. Because building isn't glamorous, it's hard and dirty work. It doesn't feed frustration or ego. It demands patience, humility, and sweat. The path forward is to merge the wisdom of Apollo with the fire of Dionysus. Clarity with passion, reason with drive. A balance that is embodied in Odin, god of the warband and of the wise king. Our ancestors mastered this balance, and we can too. But first, the elders must meet the youth again. The elders must admit to their mistakes, and the youth must learn to listen. We have to repair the generational bonds. That reunion is the real beginning of the new world. Anger can light the fire, but it cannot steer the ship. Many begin with outrage and never graduate to discipline. You need to be validated, and we must validate our men. They have been wronged. Acknowledge that. Give it the recognition it deserves, but then move to solutions. Before you can course correct, you have to understand where you took the wrong turn. Anger can start that march, but purpose must finish it. Men must challenge, not flatter one another. Truth must always outrank comfort. The term echo chamber is often misused. It's acceptable, even necessary, to work within a trusted ecosystem while you're still learning and refining your rhetoric. A hostile ideology will only undermine you, especially when you're new and still forming your foundation. This same misuse of the echo chamber label is what institutions do to parents. They claim if you raise and educate your own children according to your values, you're isolating them, when in truth, you're protecting them. Government schools often operate on the quiet assumption that your parents, your ancestors, your entire lineage are inherently flawed. And without their supervision, you'll turn out wrong. That's not education. That's indoctrination dressed in authority. The underlying premise is always the same. A group with power demands inclusion in the private conversations of the group without it. They call it openness, but it's really supervision. Ask yourself, how often are you invited into their internal dialogues, their institutions, their circles of trust? Never. The term echo chamber has become a weapon to shame ordinary people for building their own communities. Used that way, it isn't about protecting truth, it's about maintaining control. After all, debate only works between two parties acting in good faith. Don't argue with people who seek your destruction, unless your action is to serve as a rally cry for other members of the tribe looking for fraternity. They're going to call you a racist and Nazi no matter what you do, even if you agree with them. They hate you. You don't owe them an explanation or justification. They want you trapped in fruitless debate, locked into an epistemologically closed loop, instead of acting in your own best interest. You know they're lying. Act accordingly. But inside our circle, there can be no cowardice. Brothers of the warband must never lie to one another or to themselves. We have to face the ugly truth, no matter how it feels. A real brotherhood cannot be built on endless agreement or polite silence. That's how mediocrity becomes the standard, and why men who have proven themselves through trial and triumph must set the tone and uphold the standards. Posting isn't participation. Hashtags aren't heritage. Visibility is not victory. Do not mistake the feeling of activity for accomplishment. The digital age bathes you in simulated achievements, robbing you of the willpower to meet your goals. Nothing you build online will replace what you must build in person. Leadership must arise from service and competence, not self-promotion. This is why so few groups endure. Ego replaces mission. Everyone wants to be right. No one wants to be effective. No Christian is right about every passage of the Bible, just as no scholar holds the final word on Indo-European myth. These are living traditions. It's heritage, not a trophy. Refusing to align with capable allies because you need to be right is a recipe for failure. One that breeds division and is easily exploited by enemies. Anyone who demands loyalty on the basis of credentials or self-declared authority instead of action and accomplishment should be met with skepticism, not mistrust, but healthy judgment. We need results more than validation from those who despise us. And that includes me. It may sound like I'm undermining my own message, but I'm not. I'm not selling you anything. I am on borrowed time. The only reward I seek is the tribe I want for my children. I gain nothing from this directly. My time has come and gone. I can only pass on the lessons I've learned in wisdom and in error. I am merely the father of future kings. I build for tomorrow. I plant trees whose shade I will never know. A generational strategy I hope takes root soon. Know the difference. Every warband collapses when men seek followers instead of brothers. Strength, health, and skill are the ground of all higher work. A weak body cannot sustain a strong spirit. There is no version of reality where the meek shall inherit the earth. That's not a rejection of Christianity. It's a sober acknowledgement through Nietzsche's lens of what's actually happening. The values of the slave and the values of the sovereign are not the same. And the history of the church suggests that even Christians once understood this truth. And to those Christians, they have my respect. Our work begins by reclaiming the virtues of the strong so that the good can endure. If we forget that, we become the very thing we set out to overcome. Remember why you began. To rebuild what was lost, to live as an example of what can still be. Every act of discipline, every moment of courage, every honest word spoken in the dark pushes the world a little closer to the light. You are not here to watch history happen. You are here to shape it. Stand firm, build well, and carry your brothers with you. Because when the dust settles, the world that remains will be the one we choose to build. Until next time.